Hi, I'm Kelsey Decker. I'm from New Jersey, so a fellow person who has PCOS and working through all of that, just like I'm sure many who are going to be watching this too.
How long have you had PCOS, Kelsey?
So I've known that I've had an issue since high school. I've been trying to do something about it for the last 12 years, but I wasn't officially diagnosed until about 5 years ago. So it's definitely been a struggle because really ever since high school, it definitely got super painful to the point that there would be days in school that I would either have to take off or that I'd be staying a decent amount of time in the health office just with like a heating pad and with ibuprofen or something just so that I wouldn't have to be sticking next to the toilet the whole day just because it would be that painful for me. So that was really the start of everything. I knew something was wrong. It just wasn't, there was no one really helping me because in my family that was kind of a known issue, but no one really had a solution for it. And the gynecologist that I had went to had said like, oh, well, let's just put you on the pill. But that was the only solution. And I had actually tried the pill, but I had an allergic reaction. So I was like, heck no, let's stay away from that. So I tried going to someone else and other people, it was just the same thing over and over again. It was the only solution we have is like some sort of hormonal pill. And I just wanted to stay away from that. So I started doing research kind of on my own of different herbal remedies that have been used around the world for similar things. So I would give them roughly like 2 to 3 months at a time because, you know, things take time, especially to see if it's going to work with your body or not. So I tried a lot of different things and it was just nothing was working for me. So at one point I also went to an endocrinologist who had said that the male hormones in my body were really high. So I went on dexamethasone, I believe. It was something to go after the progesterone in my body. And what happened there is it got rid of all of the testosterone. And when I say all of the testosterone, I'm not exaggerating either. It was, my blood work came back of less than 1. So with that, I ended up having a decent amount of issues for a bit. Like I gained a lot of weight because of it. And then it wasn't breaking down properly in my body at that point because I had no testosterone. So I ended up gaining a lot of cellulite and then my body was kind of counteracting all of that. So then I also started getting like darker facial hair and just a lot of really not great things, especially for anxiety and for how I was kind of viewing myself too. So it was really hard for sure. But I finally found someone new for a gynecologist wise who I had went to because my mom went to someone new as well. And she found out that she had uterine cancer. So like I knew that this person was actually going to, you know, get to the point, find things that were going on. Not that I necessarily thought that I had that, but it was still, since he was honest with my mom, I felt, you know, maybe I should try this person who had told me first about inositol, which I know is used in this new recipe. So that alone was something new. And he was actually someone who was open to trying other things. So I started off with inositol, but it still like on its own, that alone wasn't doing the trick. It was definitely helping, like don't get me wrong, it absolutely helped with mental function, it helped with my anxiety levels, things like that. So partially with the hormones, but I was still looking for something more. So I was on Facebook and I went on Instagram and I finally came across Smoo and I decided, I was like, hey, like, why not? I, of course, still like looked into it first, just like I do with everything else, but everything in it, it looked awesome. Everything in it was all like supplements. They were all like really good amounts and everything. So I figured, hey, I'll try it. Like, what's the worst? If it's just another thing that like won't work for me, then okay, but I might as well. And actually within the first month of using it, like my first period after having Smoo wasn't painful. which was really weird for me. I was like, wait, what? I'm having my time a month and I'm not like doubled over in pain. That's interesting. So I was actually able to go out and do things, which was crazy for me because, you know, as I said, I've been dealing with this for 12 years at least. So yeah, it's been really nice. I've now been using Smoo for about 5 months. So it's definitely going in a good direction.
No, that's good. And wow, quite a story, huh? With so many years of like trying to figure out what was wrong. I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was around 19. So it was kind of like same situation where in high school, I kind of figured I had a problem, but it wasn't until I was an adult and I was like, I need to go figure out for myself what's wrong with me because this isn't normal. But for a while, and I've tried like everything. And I don't know about you, but I kind of I have PCOS. I kept my PCOS in private. I felt like no one could know about the hair on my face or my painful periods or why I can't lose weight, though I exercise 5 to 6 times a day. I'm curious if you had a support system when you were diagnosed with your PCOS. Were you open about it? How that looked like for you?
So for me, it was interesting because I was open about it with those who were around me. However, my support system was actually pretty lacking. Just because in my family, since we have had an issue for so long, I don't know if it's because my family didn't want to recognize necessarily that they could also have this issue or that they may have to make changes in their lives too. But it was, oh, you know, you may think you have this. And I was like, no, the doctor said that I do. But it was like, all right, well, you have this, but you know, like you still need to figure out how to take care of it. And I was like, well, this thing's working for me. So it's been interesting because I haven't just taken Smoo. I've also cut out gluten out of my diet because I found that for me and for many with PCOS is a trigger, with at least not being broken down properly and leading to hormonal imbalance. And I know that at least in my entire dad's side of the family, all of the men and actually women for that matter have like a big gut. So I'm pretty sure that at least like gluten intolerance comes from that side, but my family refuses to kind of go gluten free. Yeah. So that was just me. So while living with my parents for a while, once I did figure this out, it became a bit tricky because my household has always been pasta, and lots of bread and carbs. And I still have lots of carbs, just ones that work for me. So the fact that I was doing something different, my parents were like, oh, you're eating too healthy, which I never thought I'd ever hear because growing up, it was like, you need to eat your vegetables. So having them say like, you're eating too healthy, you know, like you can take like a little break, this and that. I was like, no, I want this to be fixed. I want this to be done. So they like now have come around and they're now kind of like respectful of my eating habits and all of that, but it wasn't easy. If anything, my friends were more so supportive. But that's actually why I really like the online stuff, is because then people who may be in the same kind of situation as myself, or whether it's they don't want to really talk to other people about it, or they have people for whatever reason aren't exactly the most supportive and gung-ho about, you know, helping you out or making you feel like okay about it, you have other people who are like you. So that part at least makes it easier.
Right. And you're referring to the S'moo Babes community?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I kind of felt the same way too. Because I, and everybody has a different symptom with their PCOS that they kind of think is the worst. Some people it's their painful periods, and for others it's infertility, and for some hair loss, and for others hair growth, right? And a million other different symptoms in between. But I know for me, it was the hair growth on my face, because that was something that was difficult to hide. And it was a constant reminder. It was like in front of me in the mirror every single day, and I hid it. And so with the community, I feel like it is a safe place where you could talk and say, hey, I have this issue. Like, anybody want to give me pointers, or am I the only one? am I the only unlucky one? Because that's the other thing with PCOS. I was like, I must be the only one, like in this entire world, or, at least I don't know. I just felt like there isn't anybody else like me. And it's funny when you get into it, when you do your research and you find a community. Right now, our community is up to 15,000 women, which is insane. You start to realize like, oh, this is actually more common than I thought. And it's a good idea to talk about it so more people are aware of it. So I'm glad that you were able to, talk about PCOS with your family and your friends, and, through trial and error, be able to explain to them why it is that you have to make these life changes. But I did want to ask you a question, because I think, for myself, it does require a lot of discipline to say, hey, I'm going to take this supplement every day, or hey, I'm not going to, do gluten or maybe dairy or whatever, that restriction looks like. What kind of was the motivation for you to make a change in your life?
Honestly, it was the fact that, like from the get-go, it was so painful. And I knew that not everyone experienced that. Like I have friends who their time of the month looks a lot different, and they've always been very active, and they didn't really understand how hard it was for me until they were actually with me or saw it in person. So like that alone, I was just so incredibly tired of just being in pain. So like between the pain, between the weight gain that I had, and I also had a bit of like facial hair, which has gone down. But like with all of it, I want it gone. And not only that, but like I also eventually want to have kids when I'm ready. So I want to make my body, run the best that it can. So I know that it can be really hard, especially when you are cutting so many things out, or if you're changing your lifestyle. I know it's difficult for sure, but to me, it's worth it because I want to feel better. And that's just part of my goal. So for me, like if I have to, then and I haven't really had to, more so in the beginning, but I'll set a little timer for myself of like, all right, take this now. But that's about it. It was once I kind of got into the swing of things, especially like going gluten-free, that I'm fine now. Like I get gluten-free pizzas. I go honestly, and I know that this isn't everywhere, so not everyone has this, but Trader Joe's, I practically live there. Yeah, they have like a lot of really great gluten-free stuff, like pre-made things. They have the breads and all of it. So like I'll still for myself, like on Thanksgiving, I'll make myself a nice turkey dinner with stuffing and everything. It's just stuffing that works for me. And it still tastes like equally as great as everybody else's. So I'm not missing out there. And I think that's also what I had to kind of show other people, is just because I'm cutting something out doesn't mean I'm missing out on, on all of the flavors and the different types of foods. I just have to make a little bit more so for myself.
Right. No, I love that. You just have to like adjust little aspects or factors in your life, and then it just becomes your life. It's just like the new norm. But it's funny that you brought up Thanksgiving. We all of us Smoo people, we're in different states. And so we talked about doing like a virtual Smoo Thanksgiving, and one person will do the gravy and the other person will do the gluten-free stuffing or whatever it is. But that's like what's fun about it, is like when other people understand you and understand like why it is that you have to make these changes, it just kind of becomes like, a community of people who are just like you. And it's not weird, and it's not like inconvenient, which sometimes I feel like a lot of us with PCOS we're like, oh no, just another inconvenience. But it really is not. It's just, something that we have to deal with. And thankfully, there are a lot of things, stores coming out with products that are suitable for us, or supplements like Smoo. So I just have one last question for you, and it's super hard. Are you ready? Okay. What's your favorite Smoo recipe?
Okay, so my favorite Smoo recipe as of right now, because I'm still trying things out, but the one that I've been recently doing is I take chocolate Smoo. I do, what else? Okay, I do chocolate Smoo. I take a little bit of peanut butter, like a tablespoon of peanut butter. I do frozen berries. And actually, I also have this little organic mix from Walmart that's very flavored, just so that I have like other vitamins and then I don't have to take a multivitamin. So I have that in there. Mix it with a little bit of water and almond milk. Honestly, that by itself, without even having anything else in there, so good.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like one of my recipes. I think like peanut butter is the trick with chocolate Smoo, and it's, you know, I think it has protein in it, so it kind of works. And I also use peanut butter powder sometimes. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like sometimes it just is like easy, like mix all the powders together, or if I'm ever doing like a shake on the go. But I'm always curious what people's favorite recipes are. So that was your hard question.
I actually have a second one.
Ooh, go ahead and share.
So my other one is actually mixing it with a little bit of coffee too. So if you do a little extra like cocoa powder and then some coffee in there as well with some ice and then the almond milk and everything else in it, super good.
Like a mocha, because it's like
Yes, the chocolate and the coffee. Great.
You're gonna have to help us create some recipes. 'Cause these sound really good.